प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहं सगतिं तुरीयं यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनं पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. We'll chant from chapter 5, verse number 8 to 12. Chapter 5, verse number 8 to 12. नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववेत् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्नन् अश्नन् गच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन्. नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववेत् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पृशन् जिघ्नन् अश्नन् गच्छन् स्वपन् श्वसन्. प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् उन्मिषन् निमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा. ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गं त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये. युक्तः कर्मफलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते. युक्तः कर्मफलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः कामकारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते. Hari Om everyone. Thank you for joining once again.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om.
Happy birthday, sir.
Hari Om, happy birthday.
Happy
Hari Om, a very,
birthday.
very
Hari
happy
Om.
birthday. Very
Hari
happy
Om.
जन
birthday.
दिवस
Happy birthday.
जन दिवस की शुभकामनाएं.
Thank you so much. There's no better way I would start my day.
Happy birthday.
Thank you everyone. So, yeah, there's no better way I would start my day. So I got the opportunity when all of you voted for today to have a class. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Rita.
In fact, it's confusion. We've compared the Brahman, the Atman, or the Supreme Being. It's all just there, and to an electricity. We are comparing it to an electricity. It's there. Electricity is there. It's in the equipment which helps it to enlighten it, enliven it. So that means when a human being, and all the actions are there when the person is alive, you can do the action. So that means when it's dead, there is then it's not in that body that's lying there, or it is still there in the body.
Use the same example. Use the same electricity example to understand your point.
Then it's not there.
Suppose okay. Suppose you have a bulb at home. You wanted to save some money, so instead of buying a Philips bulb, you bought some cheap brand. Philips bulbs have a very long lasting guarantee, but you bought some cheap brand. So okay, you put it on and the electricity is flowing through it and it's glowing. Couple of days later, some malfunction, some issue, some part was faulty or whatever, and this bulb you got doesn't work anymore. It doesn't glow. It doesn't perform its function. Is there electricity flowing in the bulb right now?
Yeah.
Even after it's spoiled?
Yeah.
So that bulb with a defunct system because of some faulty parts, missing parts essentially, still has electricity flowing through it, but it's not glowing. Right? That is like a defunct body after the death of a being. It's like electricity flowing through a bulb without proper equipments. It won't glow. Electricity simply allows equipments to perform their function. It doesn't add any functionality.
Okay, but it's still there.
It's still there.
Okay, fine. I've understood.
The reason you are talking, moving, feeling, and the reason a piece of wood is just lying there is not because there is no Atman in the wood. It's because the wood doesn't have a Sukshma Sharira. The wood is just a...
Yes, sorry, peace.
For all practical purposes, the Sukshma Sharira and the wood is inert, completely inert. It doesn't have, in that sense, it doesn't have the kind of chitta, it doesn't have the kind of buddhi and man that you have. A plant has a physical body and one can say a rudimentary mind. It expresses some level of feeling. If you're around plants, you'll notice some level of reaction to the environment. Of course, you can see that, and some level of feeling. Now, a plant is not able to think and reason and judge and decide because it doesn't have a buddhi. Because the equipment is not there, that functionality is not expressed.
Okay.
Just like when the equipment is faulty or when there is a missing piece of equipment within a um, device, it won't function properly or it won't function. So what happens at what is a dead body? A dead body is simply a sthula sharira, a gross body without a sukshma sharira. When so when we talk about the pancha pranas, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about the pancha koshas, sorry, not pancha pranas. When you talk about the pancha koshas,
Koshas that leave the body.
5 layers of the body, you're you are simply a combination of 5 layers of you can say it a gross anatomy and a subtle anatomy, right? What you're calling the body, what you're calling the gross body is called the annamaya kosha, the outer layer, right? The physical form made up of anna, made up of food. And what within your body you have your personality, you have your mind, feelings, emotions, ideas, thoughts, right? It's called the Sukshma Sharira. And this Annamaya Kosha, this Sthula Sharira, is glued to the Sukshma Sharira. It's like pasted together by what is called the pranas. Pran.
Yeah.
Pran doesn't mean yourself. Pran means that glue which joins your physical to your non-physical form, right? When the pranas leave the body, say na
Yeah.
it means the glue's gone. When the glue's gone, there's no, the Sukshma Sharira is gone. What remains is the Sthula Sharira. So, what will a Sthula Sharira do when the Atman flows through it? It'll just exist. It'll just, there's no there's no functionality being performed. Why? Because the Sukshma Sharira is not there. Right?
Yeah. I've understood. Thank you. I've understood. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Who is this?
Divya, hi.
Divyaji, yes.
Um, now that one has started on this spiritual journey, and let's say you're not able to complete it because of whatever disease, death, whatever reason, when you take another life, you're again born without the knowledge. How does one complete it then if life interrupts you?
Life is a continuum. Life doesn't start at birth, life doesn't end at death. Earlier in chapter 3, he assured us no effort is lost on this journey. No effort is lost, not even a thought is wasted. So, any thought, any effort, any work you put into this journey, you carry on with your vasanas, essentially. What you carry forward into your next incarnation, or what you are essentially, and what you're carrying from one incarnation to another, is a bundle of vasanas, a bundle of impressions, a bundle of gunas, which determine the kind of person you are, the kind of person you become. Why are you the way you are, and why is someone else born on the same day, maybe in the same family or in the same place with the same upbringing? Why your personality is different? Why your nature is different? Because we are not only a effect of our nurture, the way in which we've been brought up in the environment, but of our nature. Now, where does this nature come from? There is something we bring with us into this body. This embodiment is more than just flesh and bones. There is something we carry with us. So, whatever effort you put in, the kind of person you become will be carried forward. When I say the kind of person you become, your thoughts, feelings, desires, personality, nature, right? Your strongest, deepest thoughts and emotions will be carried forward. They are the strongest impressions. So, the kind of person, now, if someone is born and someone is born with certain, as they develop from a very young age, they express certain virtues. Where do those virtues come from? Vice versa, they express certain vices. Where do those vices come from? So, through your cycle of birth and death, you carry forward your samskara, your vasanas, and no effort is lost. So, yes, physiologically, you're starting up again because that's the way in which physiologically you have to go through a certain period of gestation and then birth, and then you'll be treated like a baby for a couple of years, and then you'll be going through a certain routine of there's a physical cycle to it, no doubt about it. Physically you have to start from the beginning, but psychologically no, right? So in fact the Bhagavad Gita goes to the extent of saying that if you are consistent on this journey, if you are sincere on this path, and if you are devoted on this path of self development, of self improvement, you'll be born into a family of peace and prosperity. Now, I don't know if he said that to soothe Arjuna or what. Huh? But if you want to listen to the words of the Lord, this is what he said. I believe in chapter, it's going to come up soon.
Very heartening.
If you are consistent and dedicated on this path, sorry, what did you say?
It's very heartening. Otherwise, I attributed everything to genetics earlier. Why are we different? Why are we? I used to think it's variations in genetics.
Your
Uh,
genetics and the kind of body you are born into is also a determinant of your vasanas. No doubt about it. See, it's not that we are necessarily rejecting the physical
yeah.
and the effect of the physical. No doubt about it. But the kind of, and when I say physical, it also means the environment, not only your physical body, which is a certain kind of environment, but the kind of circumstance you're born into also has an impact on you. But that also is, it's like the theory of reincarnation is tantamounts to saying that you choose your environment. Just as you're going from one experience to another. Today, you're in this class right now. You have chosen this experience. Why? Because of certain desires, certain propensities, certain, you know, you're attracted to this and you're making time for this versus other things. There are 10 other things you could be choosing to do right now. But because of a certain propensity of desires, you have chosen to be in this environment. Incarnation is no different. Death is just another experience in the journey of life, is what theory of reincarnation says. Wherein you leave, the only change is in any normal experience, we go from one environment to another, right? One sort of physical environment to another. At the time of death, we go from one body to another, right? But the mechanics is still the same. You're choosing based on the propensity of what is most urgent to you, what is most needed for you, right? So even at birth, we say the child chooses the parents. So the child is saying, "Oh, what kind of genetics am I going to get?" Of course, the physical form will be determined by genetics. The environment will be determined by the kind of circumstances there are. But the child chooses the parents. Now you may ask, why will anyone choose a negative environment? Well, our choices are not always well informed, right? And it's not, when we say choose, it's not something based on our wishes necessarily, but based on what we have earned in that sense, right? You're choosing through your actions. So no doubt genetics has a you know undeniable and perhaps the most significant and the closest impact on your being, your genes, your physical attributes or whatever. But that also is a result of vasanas. So coming back, it's heartening, no doubt. If you're happy with that much, it's quite heartening. But he goes further. God says, if you're consistent on this journey, you'll be born into a family of peace and prosperity. And then, if you further progress and if you make this your sole purpose, if you make it your wholehearted goal in life, the spiritual journey, then you'll be born into an even better environment. He said you'll be born into a family of wise sages. What's a family of wise sages? Family of wise sages is where everyone's purpose is evolution. So that's everyone's purpose in life is enlightenment. So it's almost like your environment is giving you you know a tailwind. So peace and prosperity is one level where there is less worry, less hassle. So you can more easily take to a spiritual journey. It's conducive. Whereas an environment of wise sages is perhaps the ideal environment because everything is working in that direction.
Wonderful explanation. Very nice.
But that's no guarantee. You still have to do your own work. You can be born into the house of Krishna and still not be still be good for nothing. So people can make a mess of that as well. So yeah, no effort is lost. Yeah, pashyati sa pashyati. If you see it, you see it. Take it or leave it. So don't worry. Will I get enlightened? Will I reach the end of the journey? I'm already XYZ years old. Not even a single thought is wasted. Okay. Verse number 7 is what we completed. Verse number 8 and 9. These two verses are a tongue twister. I remember chanting this. I remember learning how to chant this. And we learnt it so well that the moment I saw this verse, I was like, yes, I know what I have to say. But it's one of those verses you can't understand what. It's one long word. Verse number 8 and 9, we chant it together. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavet pashyan shrinvan sprishan jignan ashnan gachan swapanshvasan pralapan visrijan grinnan unmishan nimishannapi indriyani indriyartheshu vartanta iti dharayan. So he continues and says, the knower of truth, united with the self, thinks, I do nothing at all. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, sleeping, breathing, speaking, releasing, seizing, opening, and closing the eyes, he is convinced the senses move among the sense objects. The knower of truth, we've been talking about the yuktaha, the yoga yukta. He used the term yoga yukta in the previous verse. One who is united by yoga. So we've been saying, Arjuna, don't worry about sannyasa and don't worry about enlightenment. Divyaji, don't worry about enlightenment. Focus on yoga. Become yoga yukta. When you become yoga yukta, you will be purified. You will be vishuddhatma. Do you want shuddhi? Who wants shuddhi? Anyone want shuddhi out here?
I want.
You want shuddhi?
In the
Yeah.
sense purification. Isn't that the meaning?
Yes. Well, he's not only guaranteeing you shuddhi, he's guaranteeing you vishuddhi. Vishuddhi means no chance of any impurity.
I want that then.
Double deep cleaning. Double deep cleaning is vishuddhi. Uh, Cleaning is shuddhi. Deep cleaning is also not going to convey the point. Double deep cleaning. Vishuddhi. So when you focus on yoga, you develop vishuddhi. You become vishuddhatma, completely purified. Vijitatma, you conquer your own mind. Jitendriya, you conquer your own senses. You become a master of your being and not a slave to your material equipments. So that is the effect of yoga, and such a person realizes the self as the self in all beings, develops that sense of oneness, is able to go beyond the material layers and acknowledge the Atman in one and all. Such a person is not tainted, such a person doesn't accumulate further vasanas. And now he says, such a yoga yukta. What is the way in which he functions? It's a beautiful verse and deserves our contemplation. He says, the knower of truth, the one who is united by yoga, the one who has become enlightened, united with the self, thinks, I do nothing at all. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, sleeping, breathing, speaking, releasing, seizing, opening, and closing. There can be other activities also, but all of these, this is what the tongue twister was. Pashyan, Shrinvan, Sprishan, Jignan, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan, Pralapan, Visrijan, Grinnan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Napi. That's what he was saying. It's meant to be said in one breath. Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going, sleeping, breathing, speaking, releasing, seizing, opening, and closing. Everything. Whatever he does, whatever such a person does, he is convinced it's just the senses moving among the sense objects. What does this mean? This means that such a person, that enlightened person, has become sakshi, a witness to their own personality. Such a person has detached from their ego and united with the self. What does it mean to unite with God? What is that song? Famous Hindi song, Arziya. When he's chanting to the Lord, he says, Mujhko kar mujhse hi riha. Free me from myself. That is liberation. Liberation is not living in a dreamland with all the facilities and amenities. Liberation is not the perfect world outside. Liberation is this inner liberation where you are liberated from your own ego. So to unite with the self, you must liberate from your ego. You must detach from your ego. Such a person, he has united with the self, liberated from the ego. He doesn't identify his body, his mind, his intellect as himself. If he's feeling cold, he acknowledges, oh, the body is feeling cold. It's a big difference. It's a big difference to say, oh, I'm feeling so cold, versus the body is feeling cold. Even practicing it, even if you're not convinced, even practicing it will create a sense of objectivity in you. Then, whenever you're hungry and angry, you won't say, I am hungry. You'll say, my body and mind are hungry. What happens when you're hungry? You become irritable. You just want to turn everything around you into pulp. You want to just break everything. No, you'll realize the body is hungry, the mind is angry. Therefore, collectively they are hungry. I am not hungry. You won't be offended. Someone who is united with the self, someone who's on the spiritual journey. If someone is easily offended, it means they are not on the spiritual journey, period. What are you offending? Either you're offending my body because it is not up to your standards. Either you're offending my mind and intellect because it is not up to your standards. But I don't identify with them. So how will I get offended? If you offend my Atman, it's like you're offending yourself, because it's the same Atman in you is the same Atman in me. So what's there to offend, and what's there to get offended? So someone who is spiritually evolved or evolving, which is why, I was just seeing a video the other day, and two people from two different religious backgrounds. One was, Hare Krishna. ISKCON movement, and one was someone from a different religion. And people try to appear very politically correct on the surface, even though they mean all sorts of nasty things in the back, within. So the other gentleman said, "I don't mean to offend you," to the Hare Krishna gentleman. And the Hare Krishna gentleman says, "No, please be as nasty as possible. Speak whatever you want to speak and say whatever nasty thing and offend me as much as possible. Try to. At least that way I'll know exactly what's in your mind. Because I won't get offended." This idea of taking offense. How weak is your God? And that doesn't mean you let others walk over, you give a befitting reply. But at the slightest point, we take offense. How did you say this against my Guru? How did you say this against my Sampradaya? Oh my God, they are criticizing. Back in the day, people who offended each other, they were arch rivals. They became devotees of one or the other based on arguments that were won on proper reason and proper appeal through reason. Right? That's been this tradition. Challenging and criticizing has been very much an essential part. Of course, we don't necessarily need to offend. That's not needed at all. But even if someone is trying to offend, why are you taking offense? If you identify with your intellect, and if you're attached to your intellect, you will be attached to your thoughts, ideas, ideologies, and therefore you will take offense at what the other person is saying. If you're attached to your body and mind, then you will take offense at what they are saying. So if you have an ego, that's when you will take offense. So the knower of truth, the one who has evolved, no matter what they do with their physical body, with their mind, with their intellect, they're convinced it is these various material equipments which are simply performing their functions. I am Sakshi, I am a witness. The Atman is just the enlivening principle, allowing these to function however they function. For him, this is not just a theory. It becomes lived practice. And you can also practice it with the smallest of experiences. See, the moment you develop a little bit of this virtue, you'll become more flexible, more accommodating. You'll develop what is called titiksha. Titiksha is the capacity to endure a difficult circumstance with grace. Anything that is difficult for your body, maybe it is. Now the summer months in Gurgaon are gone, but maybe it is load shedding in Gurgaon. Your body is uncomfortable. Learn to endure it. If your body is uncomfortable, why do you get uncomfortable? If you think you are the body, you will get uncomfortable. If you have that little bit of elbow room from the body, you'll be able to endure it. It's just the body. You will say, "Thank God. Thank God my sweat glands are working so that my body is able to regulate the temperature." Why? Because without sweat glands, this heat would cause too much of internal heating, and my body would have no way of releasing the heat, and I would get cooked from inside. Two different ways of looking at the scenario. One is to complain, "Oof, it's so hot." One is to say, "Thank God, my sweat glands are working." The next time you're sweaty and you're chip, remember, thank God, my body's still functioning properly. Otherwise, you know what people do sometimes, especially I still remember when we used to, we were in, I used to do theatre back in the day in school, long time ago. So, they used to cake us up with all sorts of funny makeup. And when you're caked up with makeup, it's almost like, your pores have no place to breathe. Sweat is only not coming out. So you're getting very, stuffy. So the next time you sweat, your body is uncomfortable. My body is uncomfortable, not me. But thank God the body is fighting its discomfort through the proper means. So such a person is objective. Such a person is sakshi. Such a person, through this virtue, is unaffected by whatever construes around him. Right? This is the way in which you remain sama, equanimous, through all the meandering and undulating situations in life. If you are completely attached to your body, mind, and intellect, whatever happens, and the world means fluctuation, the world will fluctuate from comfort and discomfort, between comfort and discomfort. The world will fluctuate between joy and sorrow. The world will fluctuate between awareness and ignorance, clarity and confusion. It will fluctuate. There's no end to knowledge, there's no end to pleasure or displeasure, there's no end to comfort or discomfort. How are you affected by it is the question. So, this is the portrait of a person who's perfectly objective, so not affected at all. If you practice this, start with your body. It may be difficult to practice with the mind and intellect. Start with the body. The next time, learn how to develop a little bit of endurance, titiksha. The next time your body is uncomfortable, don't jump to complain. Wait, at least set a timer. 15 minutes, I won't complain. That is your practice. After 15 minutes, you call me, then we'll discuss. I'll convince you to not complain for another 15 minutes. But this objectivity is a beautiful quality. The knower of truth has this beautiful objectivity. Yes, Ankit.
This for the Jnani, for the sannyasi, we spoke of him as acting in a detached manner and free from desires and hate. So in mostly it's probably a difference in degrees, but what's the difference between acting in a detached manner and acting as a complete sakshi for all intents and purposes?
No, so you need to look at yogi, sannyasi, and jnani as a spectrum. When at the beginning of the spectrum you're a yogi, you develop into a sannyasi, and when you achieve the final ultimate destination, you become a jnani. Right? So they're not in any way different. Right? They're different degrees. As a yogi, you'll need to put in effort. As a sannyasi, it'll become effortless. As a jnani, it'll become your nature. Right? So, even this is talking about pure detachment. For a sannyasi, functioning in a detached manner is effortless. For a jnani, it is his nature. Why? Because there is no I, there is no he. There's nothing to detach from. It's already detached. He's united with the self, not with the BMI, body, mind, intellect.
So the sannyasi is still deliberate in his sort of thought process. Okay, he's detached as a
Yeah, the sannyasi is deliberate to a point where, there is a physical reality, and therefore there has to be a little bit of awareness. That's about it. Right? But it is not something that requires effort or is difficult or is conflicting with anything else. For a yogi, there can still be a conflict. There can still be the mind pulling and tugging and wanting something else, and there's a conscious application. Right? For sannyasi, it's effortless. Which is why he says that don't forget a jnani, don't even worry about sannyasi. If you're having this question, if you're having a doubt, it means you know, be a yogi. You'll automatically graduate. That graduation is automatic. So, regardless of what you're doing physically, emotionally, intellectually, you are convinced it is simply these material equipments performing their various functions in their worlds. The intellect is moving among thoughts, the mind is moving among feelings and emotions, the senses are moving among sense objects. That's about it. Verse number 10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyatena sa papena padmapatramivambhasa. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyatena sa papena padmapatramivambhasa. He who, dedicating his actions to Brahman, acts abandoning attachment, is not tainted by sin as a lotus leaf by water. So, again, a beautiful metaphor out here, or a simile, one can say. A beautiful simile he gives out here, and I would urge you to pay close attention and note the simile. It's a beautiful simile to live by. You must live in this world like a lotus leaf on water. Padma patra mivambhasa. Padma patra means lotus leaf. Eva, like. Ambasa, in water, by water. How must you live in this world? How must you function? How must you relate to the world around you? Should you be separate from it? Should you be away from it? Should you distance yourself? No. If the world is water, you're the lotus leaf. You're on it. You're in it. But what sets a lotus leaf apart? What prevents it from getting completely consumed and submerged? What keeps it from getting affected by the water? I don't know if you've ever seen lotus leaf. It has a slippery surface, slightly slippery surface. If you pour water on it, it doesn't stay. In fact, at the slightest opportunity, at most droplets will be on it a little bit, but sooner than later the drops will slide away back into the water. The lotus leaf has a greasy surface, if that's the right way to explain it. It's a slightly greasy surface which doesn't allow water to accumulate on top of it, doesn't allow water to overburden it, allows it to float on water but still be unaffected. So Ankit here is talking about a yogi or a sannyasi, whoever you want to take it to be. He's saying he who dedicating his actions to Brahman, Brahmarpanam, Brahmanyadhaya. So dedicating your actions, working for the cause of enlightenment or evolution, abandoning attachment. So conscious decision to take up the spiritual journey and consistently function along with these virtues of Yajna Bhav, Karma Yoga, whatever you want to call it. So, a person who consistently performs Karma Yoga, dedicating his actions to Brahman, acts abandoning attachment. Such a person lives like a lotus leaf on water. Even though they are in the world, they are unaffected by it. So what is this greasy surface of the lotus leaf? This greasy surface of the lotus leaf is this knowledge of Vedanta, is this knowledge of Karma Yoga, is this knowledge of Yajna, which keeps one unaffected, which keeps one detached, which keeps one poised, objective, which allows one to set the right value for things, which allows one to be a master of their mind. Allow emotions which are helpful, reject emotions and thoughts which are not required or needed. We talked about the other day, we talked about weeding the garden of the mind. So, if you're able to weed the garden of the mind, no weed will be able to take over your garden and and trouble you, obstruct the growth of what needs to grow. So, whichever simile, whichever metaphor appeals to you, if you like the metaphor of the garden, take the metaphor of the garden. If you like the metaphor of the lotus, Padma Patramivambhasa. At least you must be conscious, because tomorrow, if you go and say, I've studied the Bhagavad Gita, and someone says, oh, I love that metaphor of the lotus leaf, and you'll be like, which one? Where does it come? So that reflects poorly on your teacher. So please remember Padma Patramivambhasa, chapter 5, verse number 10. Live like a lotus leaf on water. Empowered by this knowledge, empowered by these virtues and values, you must live in the world amidst the din and roar of the marketplace, along with all your obligations. Do whatever needs to be done. First of all, you don't have that many obligations, okay? Nobody has that many obligations. Stop making a Frankenstein out of your duties. People think more about their obligations and swell it up. And they take up unnecessary stuff. What is not their obligations, they imagine to be their obligations. And what is their obligations, they blow out of proportion. For someone who understands, it's so clear. That's the problem. For someone who doesn't understand, it's complicated. Don't make a Frankenstein out of duty. Your obligations, your duties are self-imposed. It's something you have taken up based on a duty you want to perform, a role you want to fulfill. And if you've taken up the role, then do it gracefully. Like a lotus leaf by water. Verse number 11. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalairindrayairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalairindrayairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye. The yogis, having abandoned attachment, perform action merely by the senses, body, mind, and intellect for self-purification. So, continuing with that stream of thought, like I said in the previous verse, he's talking about a yogi. He confirms that out here. Therefore, a yogi, having abandoned attachment, a yogi who has attended the class and understood that I must abandon attachment and dedicate myself on the spiritual journey, they simply perform all actions for the purpose of self-purification. Who is a yogi? A yogi is not one who wants more wealth, more health, better something, better environment. A yogi is not someone who's interested in improving their standard of living. A yogi is not looking for financial security. All of these things are good in their place. I'm not saying these are not important. Unless you're financially secure, unless you're financially comfortable, unless you're relatively healthy, you won't be able to take up anything important in life. But then comes the question, what is health? What is financial security? People become obsessed with these things beyond a point. Enough is never enough. That's something we need to understand. When you're taking 100 grams of protein, then you'll want 150 grams of protein. Why? Because a new study will say instead of 1 kilogram per body weight, you have to take 2 grams per body weight. So enough is never enough. People become obsessed with all these other things. No doubt they're important in their place, but for a yogi, what is tantamount is self-purification. What does self-purification means? Eliminating tamas and rajas, picking up sattva. Self-purification means eradicating lower vasanas, cultivating higher vasanas, or cultivating no vasanas, not cultivating vasanas. Self-purification is this inner cleansing, and you do it through karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. So whatever actions are performed, because a yogi has an identity, a yogi has a role, a yogi has a place in a family, a yogi has a place in a business, a place in some occupation, whatever they are doing with their senses, with their body, with their mind, with their intellect, whether they are in grihasti ashram, in grihasti, whatever they are doing, their purpose is self-purification. And with each day, this is the yardstick with which they measure themselves. Are my emotions becoming more pure? Are my thoughts becoming clearer? Am I moving closer towards my spiritual goal? That's paramount. That's tantamount. And anything which comes and obstructs that, anything which comes in the way of that, they have the capacity to say no. Today anything comes up, sorry, I won't be able to come for class because so this is there as long as there are no obstructions. The moment there's an obstruction, but for a yogi, his spiritual work is paramount. That takes precedence over everything else. So when you're able to put your spiritual journey as the most important, that's when you qualify to be a yogi. Otherwise, you're between a bhogi and a yogi. Whatever name you want to give it. You're not entirely a bhogi, but you're not fully a yogi. So we can come up with a new name. I won't call it dhongi, okay? Because we're not dhongis. We mean well. Think of a name between bhogi and yogi. So, a yogi is one who is consistent, dedicated, and is clear about what is the priorities. A yogi has his priorities right. That's what he means out here. Verse number 11. Move on to verse number 12. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtikim ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtikim ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. The yukta, the united one, having abandoned the fruit of action, attains eternal peace. The ayukta, impelled by desire and attached to fruit, is bound. So, yoga means yuj, to join, to unite. The culmination of yoga is yukti. When you gain yukti, you will attain mukti. Everyone says, I want mukti, I want mukti. Arey Baba, how will you get mukti? You first have to gain yukti with something. Then only will you gain mukti from something else. You have to merge with something higher, better. Then only will you get freedom from what is gross and lower. So the culmination of yoga is yukti. So one who has attained yukti is a yukta. So in verse number 11, he's talking about a yogi who's on the path of yoga. The culmination of that path, the end of that journey is yukti. Yoga leads to yukti. Such a person is a yukta. It means advanced level yogi. Advanced level yogi. The enlightened one. Having abandoned the fruit of action, having attained the ultimate of yoga, such a person attains eternal peace. No negotiation, no compromise. This is eternal peace, nothing less. Right now, you say, I'm very peaceful, I'm very happy. Actually, no complaints in life. You're very peaceful, you're very happy, you have no complaints in life because mota moti things are moving in your favor. You invested in gold 3 years back, now you're riding at all time highs, all is good. Huh? Tomorrow, if there's a financial crisis because there's a world war, what will happen? Khuda na khasta. I hope my words don't come true. What will happen? Will you still be peaceful? Suppose you had a child in the US right now on an H-1B visa. Would you still be peaceful? Oh, I'm very stressed. What do I do? They went to the US to make their future, and now this man with a funny hairstyle is coming and messing everything up. Are you still peaceful? The peace you are enjoying is a relative peace, only because most things are working in your favor. Something you have settled with. Okay, this is the level of peace I'm happy with. But if any of them go to stumble, it just takes one or two things to fall out of place. And you'll be completely disturbed, agitated, stressed. So that's not the peace we're talking about. We're talking about eternal peace. Eternal peace means not only peace forever. Eternal means regardless of whatever fluctuations there come, nothing can affect that. That is the kind of peace you can only attain when you attain yukti, when you attain enlightenment, when you merge with the Atman. Or on a relative level, as you grow spiritually, you gain more and more lasting peace. The peace you attain from material security, no doubt there is some amount of peace, but it is short-lived and it is subject to change with the changing circumstances. But the peace you attain from your own spiritual development, to the extent you are spiritually developed, to that extent your peace is unshakable. To that extent you become firm, poised. On the contrary, the ayukta, one who is non-united, one who is not on the path of yoga, who lives a life impelled by desire, impelled by material aggrandizement, impelled by the short-sighted feelings and emotions, and extremely attached to whatever they meet in life, attached to whatever they possess, attached to attaining the fruit of their actions. Such a person lives a life of bondage, is bound. Such a person is easily agitated. Such a person is constantly worried. Will I get what I want? Such a person is afraid. What if I lose what I have? This is the bondage he's talking about. So we've bound ourselves in these worries and anxieties owing to attachment. Why? Because we are ayukta. We have not united. We are trying to unite with our wealth. We are trying to unite with our familial relations. We are trying to unite with our false identities. And the extent to which you become attached to that, it becomes difficult to move on. Very often, we give the example of people who, especially people who perhaps have enjoyed some power or fame in their life, and after a certain age, they fall out of prominence, or they fall out of people who may have held a very important position in a multinational company, or some power in a big public sector bank, I don't know. Or maybe some fame as an actor or some celebrity. It becomes difficult for them. I'm not saying it's impossible. It becomes difficult for them when they fall out of prominence, when they fall out of power. because they decided to be yukta to that which is impermanent. They decided to unite with something which is passing, ephemeral. They placed all their bets on something which has a shelf life. So what are you joining with? What are you yukta with? Are you joining with something that is transient, or are you joining with something that is eternal? The true yukta is one which joins with the Atman, who identifies and places all his bets on the Atman. That's the path to eternal peace. Otherwise, it's all transient and it's all fluctuating, bound by worry and anxiety with undulations. That's the life which most of us live as ayuktas. With that thought, we'll conclude today, and with the resolve to become yuktas, with the resolve to become yogis, we'll take our lives forward and we'll take our years forward. At least that's my resolve on my own birthday. So thank you so much for joining. I'm happy to
Hari
take
Om.
questions if you have any quick questions. Yes, Ankit.
So, the last thought which we were having, someone who's yukta, who's united with the eternal, you then like sort of give up your association with the ephemeral thing.
Sorry?
Say you associate yourself with the eternal peace, then you sort of give up your association with the ephemeral thing that sort of allowed you to sort of pursue that eternal peace.
Uh, how do you mean? Like, what is your
You said that, uh, financial security and some sort of financial comfort and your health, etc., is important for you to sort of even embark on this journey.
yeah?
You got that platform, and then you sort of catapulted yourself and went towards eternal peace. Then, say for example, then you stop caring about your financial health or your health and all that. Like even if things go a little out of order, will you make it like okay?
See, it's not that these things are not complementary. Um, as you grow, say for example, you have a certain level of financial security and a certain level of health. Even when you grow spiritually, it's not like it's going to be adversely affecting your physical health or affecting your financial security. So it's not that choosing this will cause an impediment in that, right? In fact, you'll have nothing to spend on.
Yeah.
And you'll be living the healthiest life, right? So for all practical purposes, it's not that something that you'll have to necessarily give up or compromise on, right? On the contrary, you become less obsessed with it. That's what changes, right? You place the right value to things. You're able to compartmentalize and place a value. Okay, this is the time and place and the relative importance that I need to give these things, right? So they don't consume you. The problem is we pick up any goal in life or we pick up anything in life, we become completely consumed by it. Again, that initial obsession in any field is very important, no doubt about it, to grow in any field. But beyond a point, maturity is when you're able to, sort of work everything along with it, right? So you become when you pick up something high, you're able to set the right value to everything else. You don't become indifferent to it. You don't disregard it, and that's what we've been talking about throughout our classes, right? That renunciation is not indifference. It is not something that you disregard. Renunciation is the capacity to set the right value for anything that life has to offer. I'll take you back to my favorite portion in the Vedanta treatise. Let me see if I can pick it up. True renunciation is therefore that capacity in you to set the right value for all that the world has to offer. Be it material, be it physical, be it emotional, be it your relationships, be it your physical health and pleasures, be it material wealth and comforts. To consider them ephemeral and inconsequential means they have a shelf life, they will come and go. And inconsequential means what? Doesn't mean that they don't matter. That means even if it's not there, it's not the end of your life. Inconsequent. They don't have any consequence. Yeah, you're enjoying them right now, good. But in the larger picture of life, when you see life from that spiritual lens, they're inconsequential. Your designation, your fame, your popularity, your wealth, none of these count. They're inconsequential. Even while you may be amidst them and perhaps enjoying them. Golden words. So look, we try various means to explain and try to convey, and that's only to perhaps give a new perspective. But some of these highlighted portions are, the essential core tenets. This is not something we must, if ever we are confused, we must come back to, some of these golden words. And this is perhaps a paragraph which is like a, golden section, right? Just like we've highlighted so many things elsewhere. I think there's something else he says.
In one single word, it is detachment. You have everything, but don't be attached to them.
Correct. And there's okay, well, we'll come to this later, but there's another section which I've highlighted, which is perhaps my favorite section. But yes, clear?
Yeah.
Get the Vedanta treatise if you're not clear, and highlight this section. Okay. If there are no questions, other questions, we'll conclude today. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next week on Tuesday. Hari Om.
Once,
Om.
Thank you,
Hari
sir.
Om.
once
Hari Om.
again,
Thank you so much.
Thank
Once again,
you.
a very
All the
happy
best.
birthday. Have a lovely day.
Happy birthday.